Most people think building wealth starts with earning more money. It's one of the biggest financial myths ever created. We spend years chasing promotions, switching jobs, working overtime, or starting side hustles because we believe a bigger paycheck will finally solve our money problems. But if earning more money automatically created wealth, then every doctor, lawyer, athlete, celebrity, and executive would be financially free. Yet every year we hear stories about people making hundreds of thousands of dollars who are drowning in debt, living paycheck to paycheck, or even filing for bankruptcy. At the same time, there are teachers, electricians, nurses, and ordinary office workers who quietly become millionaires without ever earning an extraordinary income. So what separates them? It isn't luck. It isn't intelligence. And surprisingly, it isn't income. It's one habit that almost nobody talks about. A habit so simple that it looks almost boring, but over 10 or 20 years, it completely changes the direction of your financial life. Imagine two people. We'll call them Jake and Ryan. They're both 28 years old. They both live in the same city, work similar office jobs, and each earn $70,000 a year. Every 2 weeks, their paychecks arrive on Friday morning. On paper, their financial future should look almost identical. But it doesn't. The moment Jake gets paid, he feels relief. His paycheck has finally arrived after 2 weeks of watching his bank balance slowly disappear. He pays rent, car insurance, utilities, subscriptions, groceries, fuel, and a few credit card payments. Then he tells himself he'll save whatever money is left at the end of the month. Unfortunately, the end of the month always seems to arrive before there's anything left to save. There's always another birthday, another dinner out, another online sale, another unexpected expense. Somehow his account keeps returning to almost zero just before payday. Every month feels like starting over. Ryan does something that looks almost insignificant. Before he pays a single bill, before he buys groceries, before he even checks social media, 10% of his paycheck automatically leaves his checking account and moves into a savings and investment account. He never has to think about it because it happens automatically. Whatever remains is the amount he allows himself to live on. At first, it feels uncomfortable. He has to be slightly more careful with spending. Maybe he skips ordering takeout a couple of times. Maybe he waits another month before buying new shoes. Nothing dramatic changes, but one important thing does. His future gets paid before everyone else does. Now imagine these two people 1 year later. Jake has almost nothing saved. Ryan has quietly accumulated several $1,000s without making any dramatic sacrifices. Neither one became rich in 12 months, but one has started building momentum while the other is stuck running in circles. That's the power of habits. Financial success almost never comes from one giant decision. It comes from hundreds of tiny decisions repeated so consistently that they eventually become invisible. The problem is that most people don't think this way. They think in terms of leftover money. Saving becomes something they plan to do after everything else has been paid. The problem with leftovers is that modern life is designed to make sure there aren't any. Every app on your phone wants your attention. Every advertisement wants your wallet. Every subscription quietly renews itself every month. Restaurants make convenience irresistible. Online shopping removes every barrier between wanting something and buying it. Companies spend billions of dollars studying human psychology so they can convince you to spend just a little more. They know something most people don't. If they can reach your paycheck before your future does, they win. Think about your paycheck like a pizza. Imagine you invite everyone to take a slice before you eat. Your landlord takes a slice. The electric company takes one. Your internet provider takes another. Your insurance company grabs one. Netflix, Spotify, Amazon Prime. Your phone bill, your gym membership, groceries, restaurants, gasoline, coffee shops, online shopping, and dozens of tiny purchases each take another slice. By the time everyone has finished eating, you're staring at an empty box wondering where your dinner went. That's exactly how most people treat money. They let everyone else decide what's left for their future. Now imagine flipping that process. Before anyone else touches the pizza, you quietly put 2 slices aside for yourself. Those slices represent your future. Nobody else gets them. Not your favorite online store. Not an impulse purchase. Not a late-night food delivery. Those slices belong to the person you'll become 5 or 10 years from now. Suddenly, you're forced to make every other decision using what remains. It sounds almost too simple, but that's exactly why it works. There's another reason this habit is so powerful. Every dollar has a job. The problem is that if you don't assign that job yourself, someone else will. Money without a purpose disappears faster than money with a destination. Imagine walking into an airport without knowing where you're going. You wouldn't randomly choose a gate and hope it works out. Yet millions of people treat every paycheck exactly that way. The money arrives with no plan, no destination, and no purpose beyond surviving until the next payday. Then they wonder why their financial life never seems to improve. The wealthy think differently. They don't ask, "How much money do I have?" They ask, "Where should every dollar go before it even arrives?" That simple shift changes everything because intentional money behaves differently than emotional money. Emotional money reacts to sales, advertisements, stress, boredom, and social pressure. Intentional money quietly follows a plan. And here's the surprising part. The amount you save in the beginning matters far less than proving to yourself that you can do it consistently. Even if it's only $50 every paycheck, you're building something much more valuable than a savings account. You're building an identity. You're becoming the type of person who pays their future first. And once that identity is established, increasing the amount becomes much easier than trying to create the habit from scratch. Now let's go back to Jake and Ryan because this is where their stories begin to separate in ways most people never expect. A year has passed, and both have experienced something almost everyone eventually faces: an emergency. Jake is driving home from work when his car suddenly starts making a terrible noise. The mechanic takes one look and delivers the news nobody wants to hear. The repair will cost $1,200. Jake checks his bank account. There isn't enough money. His savings account is empty because every extra dollar always seemed to disappear before the month ended. He doesn't really have a choice. The repair goes onto a credit card. At first, it doesn't seem like a huge problem. After all, that's what credit cards are for, right? But what Jake doesn't realize is that this isn't just a $1,200 repair anymore. It's now the beginning of something much bigger. Every month, interest starts quietly attaching itself to that balance. Jake makes the minimum payment because it's all he can comfortably afford. The balance drops a little, but then interest pushes it back up again. A few months later, another unexpected expense arrives. This time, it's a medical bill. Again, there isn't enough cash available, so the credit card gets used one more time. Without realizing it, Jake has entered a cycle that millions of Americans know all too well. Every emergency creates debt. Every debt payment reduces the amount available for savings. And because there's no savings, the next emergency creates even more debt. It's a loop that's incredibly difficult to escape. Ryan experiences something almost identical. His car also breaks down. The repair costs the same amount. But instead of reaching for a credit card, he transfers money from the emergency fund he's been quietly building for the last year. The repair is annoying, but it isn't financially devastating. His life continues exactly as planned. That's the real purpose of savings. Most people think an emergency fund exists to earn interest. It doesn't. It exists to stop emergencies from becoming financial disasters. The return isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in peace of mind. This is something people often misunderstand. They look at money sitting in a savings account and think it's wasting potential because it isn't earning massive investment returns. But an emergency fund isn't an investment. It's insurance. You don't complain that your home insurance didn't make you rich this year. You're simply grateful it's there when something goes wrong. Emergency savings work exactly the same way. There's another hidden benefit that almost nobody talks about. When you have savings, you make better decisions. Imagine your boss treats you unfairly. If your bank account is empty, you're forced to tolerate the situation because missing even one paycheck could create serious problems. But if you've built several months of living expenses, suddenly you have options. You can search for a better job without panicking. You can negotiate with confidence. You can say no to opportunities that aren't right for you. Savings don't just buy financial security. They buy freedom. This is why wealthy people often seem calmer during economic uncertainty. It's not because they know something everyone else doesn't. It's because they've built enough financial breathing room to absorb temporary setbacks. They understand that uncertainty is part of life. Instead of hoping nothing goes wrong, they've prepared for the possibility that something will. Now let's talk about another habit that quietly destroys financial progress: lifestyle inflation. Imagine Ryan gets promoted at work and receives a $10,000 raise. Most people immediately begin imagining what they could buy with the extra money: a nicer apartment, a newer car, more vacations, better restaurants, expensive gadgets. None of those purchases seem unreasonable by themselves. The problem appears when every increase in income immediately creates an increase in spending. This is why some people earning $150,000 per year still feel financially stressed. Every dollar they earn already belongs to a larger mortgage, a luxury car payment, expensive subscriptions, designer clothes, or a lifestyle that's become impossible to maintain without constantly earning more. Their income has grown, but their freedom hasn't. Ryan takes a different approach. Instead of increasing his spending every time his income rises, he increases his savings rate first. When he gets a raise, half of the extra money automatically goes toward investments before he ever has the chance to spend it. The other half improves his lifestyle slightly. This small decision compounds year after year. Each promotion doesn't just make him richer today. It makes his future dramatically stronger. This is where compound growth enters the story. Most people have heard the phrase compound interest, but very few truly understand how powerful it is. Imagine rolling a snowball down a snowy hill. At first, it barely grows. It seems almost pointless. But as it continues rolling, it collects more snow, becomes larger, and starts growing faster and faster. Wealth works the same way. During the first few years, progress feels slow, sometimes painfully slow. People become discouraged because they expect dramatic results too quickly. But around year 5, year 10, or year 15, something incredible happens. The money you've already saved begins generating more money than you're contributing yourself. That's the point where your financial life changes forever. Instead of working only for your paycheck, your money begins working alongside you. Every dollar you've saved becomes another employee generating additional income 24 hours a day. That's why consistency matters more than perfection. Missing the opportunity to build the habit is often far more expensive than missing the opportunity to find the perfect investment. The hardest part isn't building wealth. The hardest part is surviving long enough to let time do its job. That's exactly why the habit of paying yourself first changes everything. It isn't because it makes you rich next month. It's because it allows time to become your greatest financial advantage instead of your greatest enemy. This is also why chasing quick money almost never works. Every year, millions of people search for the next hot stock, the next cryptocurrency, the next side hustle, or the next investment that promises to double their money overnight. They spend hours trying to find shortcuts while ignoring the one habit that has created more wealth than almost anything else in history. The truth is almost disappointing, because it's so simple. Wealth is usually built through repetition, not excitement. It comes from doing the right thing over and over again, even when the results aren't immediately visible. Think about going to the gym. Nobody walks into a gym for the first time expecting to look different after one workout. People understand that fitness is the result of hundreds of workouts spread across years. But when it comes to money, many people expect dramatic changes after saving for only a month or two. They become discouraged because their account doesn't look dramatically different, so they stop. They mistake slow progress for no progress. The reality is that almost every major financial success starts out looking insignificant. The first $100 saved doesn't seem life-changing. Neither does the first 500 or even the first 1,000. But every milestone creates confidence. Confidence creates consistency. Consistency creates momentum. And momentum eventually becomes wealth. This is exactly why the habit of paying yourself first is so powerful. It removes emotion from the equation. Most financial mistakes happen because of emotion, not mathematics. People shop when they're bored. They spend when they're stressed. They celebrate by buying things they don't really need. They compare themselves to friends, neighbors, co-workers, and people they follow on social media. Before long, spending becomes emotional instead of intentional. Successful savers flip that process around. They remove emotion wherever possible. Instead of deciding every payday whether they'll save money, they automate it. Instead of relying on willpower, they rely on systems. The money leaves their account before they ever have the opportunity to spend it. This is important because willpower eventually runs out. Systems don't. Imagine walking into a grocery store when you're hungry. Suddenly, everything looks appealing. You're far more likely to make impulse purchases than if you had eaten before arriving. Money works the same way. If your paycheck sits in your checking account, your brain starts assigning jobs to every dollar. A new phone suddenly seems reasonable. A weekend getaway feels affordable. Another subscription doesn't seem like a big deal. But if the savings have already been transferred automatically, those decisions become much easier because the money simply isn't available to spend. Another benefit of this habit is that it changes the way you think about opportunity. People without savings often have to ask one question before making any decision. Can I afford this? People with savings begin asking a completely different question. Is this worth delaying my future? Those two questions sound similar, but they lead to completely different decisions. Let's return to Jake and Ryan one final time. Fast forward 15 years. Jake has worked hard throughout his career. He's received raises, changed jobs, and earned far more than he did in his 20s. But each increase in income was matched by an increase in lifestyle. Bigger apartment, newer cars, more subscriptions, more monthly payments. His income grew, but so did his obligations. He still feels like he's waiting for the day when he'll finally start saving seriously. Ryan's life also improved over those 15 years. He received promotions and raises too. But every increase in income strengthened the same habit he'd started years earlier. Each raise increased his automatic savings. Each year his emergency fund became stronger. His investments continued growing. At first his progress was almost invisible. Then it became noticeable. Eventually it became impossible to ignore. What's interesting is that Ryan never felt rich during the journey. Most people who successfully build wealth don't wake up one morning suddenly feeling wealthy. Instead, they slowly notice something else. They stop worrying about small emergencies. They stop checking their bank account before buying groceries. They stop feeling anxious every time an unexpected bill arrives. Financial freedom doesn't usually arrive with fireworks. It arrives quietly, replacing stress with confidence. This is one of the biggest misconceptions about wealth. People think wealth is about expensive houses, luxury cars, and designer watches. In reality, true wealth is invisible. It's having enough savings to sleep peacefully at night. It's knowing one unexpected expense won't destroy your finances. It's having the freedom to leave a job you hate. It's being able to help your family without going into debt yourself. Wealth isn't about impressing strangers. It's about creating options. One of the most powerful lessons in personal finance is understanding the difference between looking wealthy and being wealthy. Looking wealthy is easy. A credit card can buy expensive clothes, luxury vacations, and brand new cars almost instantly. But those purchases often come with years of payments attached to them. Being wealthy is different. Being wealthy means owning assets instead of constantly financing liabilities. It means your money creates more money instead of constantly leaving your bank account. That's why this one habit matters so much. Every paycheck represents a choice. Every single payday you have two options. You can spend first and hope something remains, or you can secure your future first and learn to live on what's left. One decision feels easier today. The other creates a better tomorrow. The beautiful part is that you don't need to be perfect. You don't have to save half your income. You don't have to invest thousands of dollars every month. You don't need a six-figure salary. You simply need consistency. Even small amounts become surprisingly powerful when repeated for years. $50 every week may not seem exciting today, but over decades it can completely change your financial future. If you remember only one thing from this video, remember this. Your income determines how much money comes into your life, but your habits determine how much stays. The people who become financially secure aren't always the ones who earn the most. They're usually the ones who consistently keep a portion of what they earn before anyone else can spend it for them. So the next time your paycheck arrives, don't ask yourself what's left to save after you've spent everything. Ask yourself a different question. How much am I paying my future before I pay everyone else? That single question has quietly transformed ordinary workers into millionaires for generations. It's not exciting. It's not flashy. It won't make headlines. But if you follow it long enough, it will do something much more valuable. It will change the direction of your entire financial life. Because in the end, wealth isn't built by one lucky investment, one massive paycheck, or one perfect financial decision. It's built by one simple habit repeated every single payday for years. And that is the money habit that changes everything.